Clayton Thorson, coming out of Northwestern, was considered by most the best quarterback they've had since Otto Graham, which is likely true. And for Thorson, he was expected to have a solid NFL career, but after coming out of college, he completely fell off the map, with him struggling in the preseason with the Philadelphia Eagles. Today we're going to talk about what happened to Clayton Thorson. During his first season, Thorson would show promise at Northwestern, with him leading them to 10 wins, which included his debut being a victory over Stanford. He would lose in the Outback Bowl to Tennessee, but despite being the fifth best quarterback in the pro-style offense for a quarterback, he had competition in that recruiting class, being picked below Will Grier and Kyle Allen, both of whom are quarterbacks for the Carolina Panthers and Washington football team. But Thorson would have a successful year, considering the fact he would throw 7 touchdowns and 7 interceptions in the regular season, which excludes 2 interceptions he threw in the bowl game. Thorson would show major improvement in his sophomore season, passing for 21 touchdowns to just 8 interceptions, while leading Northwestern to a 7-6 record, which included a Pinstripe Bowl victory over Pitt, in which Thorson showed promise as a quarterback. And during that, Thorson would throw for 3 touchdowns and over 200 yards, and going into his third year, Thorson was expected to show even more promise as an NFL prospect. Thorson, during his third year, would show signs of regression after he threw for 15 touchdowns to 12 interceptions. Thorson, though, would continue to struggle until the Music City Bowl, in which he tore his ACL, tragically ending his season. Despite the injury, Thorson would decide to say his 4th year at Northwestern to try and boost his NFL draft stock for people watching, since Thorson, with an ACL injury, was projected to go undrafted. Thorson, during his senior year, would pass for 17 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. As Thorson continued throughout the year, he continued to show more and more of his prior form. Thorson would lead Northwestern to a 9-5 record, including a Big Ten championship appearance and a win in the Holiday Bowl against Utah, in which he won 31-20, and including the game's MVP after passing for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns, while also leading a comeback, which showed that Thorson had the clutch gene needed for an NFL quarterback. Thorson at the Combine showed talent and possibility of him becoming a starter, with his draft stock going from a 6th-round pick to a 5th. And at the Combine, he also showed decent throwing ability when it came to his passing drills. Thorson would also have to not wait that long in the 5th round, as he was picked with the 167th overall pick by the Philadelphia Eagles. Going into this, the Eagles were looking for a replacement for backup quarterback Nick Foles, who had signed with the Jaguars that offseason, and Thorson was expected to compete with backup Nate Sudfeld for the backup quarterback job. Thorson, during his first training camp with the team, struggled a lot, with him having shown that he didn't have the right accuracy to be a pro-caliber quarterback. For Thorson, he was competing with Cody Kessler and Nate Sudfeld, and in his preseason debut against the Tennessee Titans, he struggled, going 2 for 9 with an interception and just 7 yards. But the following week against the Jacksonville Jaguars, Thorson would complete his first ever NFL touchdown pass to Greg Ward, who would later go on to help the Eagles make the playoffs that year. But Thorson would eventually be cut following the 53-man roster cuts, and despite trying to be brought back by the Eagles, they would instead sign Kyle Aletta from the Giants. Shortly after being released by the Eagles, Thorson would sign a contract with the Cowboys and be put on their practice squad. For Thorson, he was in a unique opportunity, considering the fact the Cowboys had Pro Bowl quarterback Dak Prescott as a starter, and Thorson could learn behind Prescott, and that is what happened for Thorson's rookie year. He would ride the practice squad and would not really play in a single game. But Thorson, the following year, would sign a reserve contract with Dallas, meaning that he would stay a Dallas Cowboy at least for another season. But Thorson's job was put at risk once the Cowboys drafted in the 7th round Ben DiNucci. DiNucci and Thorson would have a quarterback battle for who would win the 3rd-string job, and Thorson would end up losing, and that would result in him being cut while DiNucci would stay on the roster. Thorson would recently signed a contract with the New York Giants to stay a member of the NFC East group. And for Thorson, he would get promoted to the active roster for 1 game against the Seattle Seahawks before being placed down on the practice squad roster once again for the Giants. I think what went wrong with Thorson's career has been his torn ACL. Since suffering the ACL in his 3rd year of college, Thorson has struggled with mobility. And due to the fact that Thorson's mobility relied on him being able to move and run, Thorson has struggled with it, and I likely see him becoming a journeyman and riding the bench the rest of his NFL career. Currently, with the Giants, I see Thorson likely gaining the backup quarterback job next year, but he will have to be quick if he wants to make an NFL comeback.